I got a bunch of these clips. That's Fox News, Geraldo. And we're going to go back to the ABC here in a moment. We're done with Fox now. You can watch the full clip on YouTube. You just type in U.S. soldiers grow opium, heroin, poppy in Afghanistan, and it'll pull up for you. I also have it up on the Alex Jones channel on YouTube. Link there. Now, this one is U.S. military helps terrorists grow heroin, U.S. funding Taliban. Now, let's stop right there before I go any further. The British invaded Afghanistan hundreds of years ago to control this stuff because the Russian czars and others were getting a hold of it and breaking their global monopoly. People wonder how the British, this little bitty island, could take over. A lot of it was they were selling opium worldwide and had addicts working for them and ready to do whatever they were told. But here's the idea. They provide security. They go on. They provide fertilizer. They help them ship it out and, quote, then interdict it once it gets here. Ladies and gentlemen, CIA aircraft and others are constantly crashing. There's been Esquire articles a decade ago where cops in Miami bust a plane full of heroin, planes full of cocaine in Houston. State police busted an 18-wheeler full of cocaine years ago. It was in the Associated Press. On the Texas border, national security was declared, and the cocaine was let go. I know Texas State Police listing, remember that. This is ongoing. Only the low-level dealers get busted or cowboys that haven't paid their cut. I'm going to come back, and I'm going to finish this other ABC News clip. But see, this is how dumb they think you are. The troops are all standing around guarding opium poppies, so they get upset, and the spin is, well, if we don't do this, the Taliban and Al-Qaeda will get it. Well, here's the deal. Opium production went from 10% of world supply out of Afghanistan in 2001 to 90+%. That's right. So, it's admitted, Congress has had hearings that in Vietnam, massive tonnage of heroin was shipped into the United States. It's on record. Same thing in the 1980s with cocaine, with Iran-Contra. That's admitted in Congress, 1997 hearings. And it's admitted what's happening in Mexico. This is a war over who controls the drugs. You know, I was I consulted on a film that aired on Showtime called American Drug War, and we interviewed drug dealers for it. Mid-level, drug dealers in L.A. who said, absolutely not. I don't want drugs legalized. Use your head. Do you think the mafia wanted prohibition of alcohol to end? Use your head, folks. This is something somebody with an IQ of like 60 should be able to figure out. By the way, you're mentally retarded if you have an IQ of 70. I mean, I'm serious. This is something that people who have serious cognitive problems should be able to understand. But the smartest people out there are having trouble because of cognitive dissonance. You don't want to admit it. Really, AP, Bloomberg, others reported a year ago that there were secret deals signed 11 years ago by the biggest insurance companies in the U.S. in meetings with the Veterans Affairs Office to steal all the death benefits of World War II veterans through modern veterans. That when you die in a car wreck or cancer or in combat, and you've been putting money out of your check into that life insurance, they just take it. This is I guess that's patriotic too, though, right? This is a criminal enterprise that's taken over, and they're not going to stop. They're coming in with carbon taxes. They're shutting down the coal-fired plants that aren't owned by insiders like General Electric on record, who's been given waivers. McDonald's is given waivers, not having to buy insurance, but their competitor Burger King does. Again, this is just an example of mafia government that we live under, and we must stop being naive. I'm risking my life, my name, everything, to just take a bunch of mainstream news and put it in your face. I mean, can you believe they've had all these newscasts? I've even got a NATO press release, video press release. If you just type NATO growing poppies in Afghanistan, you'll get it. And they say, yes, we helped grow it. We helped them ship it out. This is how we win hearts and minds. Bull! The real Taliban, not the fake al-Qaeda Taliban, had taken Afghanistan from the biggest opium producer in the world by 2001 to one of the lowest producers in the world. Because the real, quote, religious Taliban, not the old CIA Taliban from the 80s, and that was a rogue group, was on record destroying it all. On record destroying it all. They had to be liberated. Now, depending on what Justice Department or NATO number or what's the European group, Interpol number, between 91 and 93% of all heroin produced in the world is produced in Afghanistan, from less than 10%. Right at around, depending on what statistic, around 10% or less than a decade ago, to number one at 90+% today. And the troops guard it. The troops guard it. The troops guard it and provide fertilizer, everything. Just like they trained Los Zetas at Fort Benning, Georgia, School of Americas. Openly, we had intel they were going to shift and defect. Shelley was invited as a former sniper, former DEA, that's in the news today. DEA was down there training them, as well as FBI, not just ATF. You see, when the ATF director was about to go to prison for this, he went ahead and blew the whole whistle, and now it's confirmed. FBI, DEA, ATF, all under Eric Holder's orders. All confirmed. Go to Infowars.com, PrisonPlanet.com. I got links to all the mainstream news admitting it, but it's all buried in the headline. It's all buried down in the article. Think about this. This is a staged terror attack. 30,000 guns and the bedlam and the 30,000 dead down there that this is contributed to. The cops confirmed, Border Patrol, Anna Phoenix cop that had been killed with guns traced back, that they were then going to use. And now we learn they didn't just let them out of the gun shops and order the shops to do it. They helped get them across the border, using police chiefs to do it with Los Zetas trained in America. All confirmed. Okay, folks, so this is how they spin it. Now, the troops aren't the main ones on the C-130 shipping it out. That's the contractors. And contractor aircraft have crashed in Europe. They've crashed in the Middle East and Mexico and the U.S. full of heroin and cocaine. And I read you one of the Reuters headlines on that earlier. You need to grow up and understand this. You need to understand the big banks are allowed to launder the money and even pay for the aircraft and lease them and run them in their names. On record. I read to you Bloomberg headline. In the hundreds of billions, 376 bill. Stop being naive. And if you're a young person, never use the government's products. It came out 5 years ago in the New Freedom Initiative that the federal government wants to try to drug half of school children with Prozac or Ritalin type drugs, which molecules are even more dangerous than the illegal molecules. Don't ever take their Ritalin or their Prozac. Don't ever take cocaine. Don't ever take heroin. Don't ever take any of it. It is a direct tax to the mega banks that are openly imploding our society. Now, I want to shift gears now, ladies and gentlemen, and don't hold your breath for Eric Holder to get in trouble. Don't hold your breath, because this is official banker policy that runs this country. This is the private banking cartel, mafia's system. Don't hold your breath for drugs to ever be decriminalized, because they don't want their prices to go down. We have the biggest prison population. The drug war started in the 80s. We have triple the heroin, double the cocaine, according to the Justice Department's own numbers we had then. It's working well. The drug war is a big success. We got more people in prison. We've got the prisons as colleges for crime. We've got a militarized police busting down doors in no-knock warrants, looking for drugs shipped in by the shadow government. Now, let me get to the other news I'm going to cover, and I'll get the calls coming up in the next hour. But I want to get to this next big issue, and that's the carbon tax. That's the carbon tax. Al Gore, Bill Clinton, Ken Lay, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, I'm going to go over all those articles for you. Oh, we don't just make claims here. I'm going to go over the articles. They own and run the global carbon tax, a global tax being set up to be paid directly to private banks for all human activity. And they're saying you shouldn't be able to have a hot bath, you shouldn't be able to live in even a rat hole apartment, that your consumption's hurting the earth, and that they're going to tax the carbon dioxide you breathe. Meanwhile, the heir of the Rothschild fortune is in the Daily Mail on their giant yachts at his birthday and sent their goons to take the Daily Mail's people's cameras away and destroy their, erase their digital photos of them with British government officials on board the yachts and at the private island.
From his Central Texas Command Center, deep behind enemy lines, the information war continues. It's Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
All right, we're back live into hour number 2. I'm going to open the phones up in the next segment. They're not open yet, folks. I don't want you to dial for no reason. I'll give you that toll-free number coming up at the start of the next segment. You know, I was just thinking about the consequences. People ask why I get excited. Knowing drugs were made illegal on purpose so that they could build a police state in America, attack the Bill of Rights and Constitution, pack private prisons owned by the big banks, laundering the drug money, full of citizens working for 25 cents an hour on average, displacing American workers. It's so diabolical, and it's so hidden in plain view, documented, that now they have newscast after newscast and NATO video press releases, you know, NATO and Army News, explaining it so the troops feel good about it. And a lot of these military men will come back, become cops. What is it, like 80-something% of cops are now former military? And they'll pull your teenager over. God forbid your poor teenager gets on cocaine or something, or heroin. They'll find them with the drugs, and instead of throwing them in the back of an ambulance to take them to a rehab to detox them, this is horrible stuff. No, they're going to take them to prison where they're going to learn how to kill and steal. We have the biggest prison population. We have the highest crime rate. Of course we do. We have criminals running the country. It's so frustrating. I wake up at 2 in the morning. I jogged, and for the first time ever did a big stretching class, which, boy, was the hardest thing I ever did this weekend, and I still couldn't sleep. Because I've got a normal response to this type of tyranny. I mean, I realize that this stuff's growing. There isn't some status quo where this just stays at one point and then gets better later. It gets worse. Corruption either gets pushed back or it gets worse. It doesn't just stay in one spot. And we've been trained that anybody that can think for themselves, anybody that criticizes corruption is a conspiracy theorist or an extremist or corrupt. And it upsets me. And, you know, a lot of people say, Alex, how do you have the courage to talk about these subjects? Well, they're hidden in plain view. How would I have the courage to not speak out against them? See, I'm not thinking about myself individually, or at the end of the day, even my family, because I'll come and go, my family will come and go. I realize that I'm part of something bigger called the human species. And as a true individualist, I realize it's individuals that have to stand up to the collective corruption so that in the future, our species has a future. And it was that type of attitude that forged and was the progenitor and gave birth to everything that's good in our society. I'm not a hero. I'm a human. I'm somebody who loves the truth more than, quote, security. Because when you take that stagnant road of limited security for a short time to work with evil, to go along with evil, to rationalize corruption, to make excuses for it, it grows and grows. You know, if you get diagnosed with a tumor and it's operable, you don't wait and just say, I'm going to deny that I have a tumor. You get the thing cut out. And it's the same thing here, ladies and gentlemen. We don't have a future if we don't turn this around. And I know that there's CIA people watching and listening. I know there's private mercs listening. I know that things have been called in before that haven't been carried out because a lot of people realize I'm a good person, and there's still some weird morals inside the system. But they're putting sodium fluoride and bisphenol A in the plastics we drink out of, in the water we drink, the GMO foods. Time and time again, the companies are designing sterilants and cancer triggers into them. A lot of you that serve the system think you're winners because you know the truth and go along with it and laugh at all the other sheep. You're a sheep too. You're being murdered as well. I'm being soft-killed as well. And I'm not going down without a fight. Okay? So join me. I know a lot of you that serve evil have the hair on the back of your neck standing up right now. And you know why? Because your soul isn't destroyed yet. You haven't had your humanity driven from you. You still have honor. Your ancestor strength speaks through you. Join liberty. Join me. Turn your back on evil. Ask yourselves, what are you doing in this time of great challenge? What are you doing to unlock minds?